Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Lavender Lila and I'm going to be doing some fan art drawing today. Feel free to join in and draw with me. So I'm just preparing my microns, finding out what sizes I want to use. I end up not using the 0.5 and I just stick with the 0.1 and 0.2. I think I might have used a 0.3, but I don't really remember anymore. Here I am just getting the microns prepared. I tried to have like a pretty background, but you can see later on that I don't really have that. So for this I started by just starting out with the grass. It took me a really long time, as you can probably tell. It's definitely sped up a lot. Princess Mononoke is one of my favorite Ghibli movies, just because of how beautiful the nature is. I remember being a huge environmentalist when I was a kid, and I wish I could get back into that, but I guess I'm just a capitalist. But I really like the idea of sustainability, and I love how not everyone is seen as evil in the movie. There's like different shades of gray. Lady Ezbanoki, I don't remember her name, but Lady Ezbanoki, or Ezbanoki, I should look up her name, I'm sorry, give me a second. Okay, so Lady Ezboshi is not necessarily seen as a bad guy or a good guy. I mean, as a kid I thought of her as the bad guy, but now she's just trying to provide for women. She's trying to help create a safe space for women to work. And Princess Mononoke isn't necessarily the bad guy either, because she's just trying to protect the forest. I really appreciated this duality of how, even though there are two different sides of the coin, they're not necessarily evil. I mean, of course she does kill the forest spirit, which is pretty bad. But she had her own reasons to do it, which of course, not great, but now that I'm older I can understand the reasoning behind it. Also, even though I'm not a huge fan of gore, I did think the violence in a Ghibli movie was rather shocking, and I did appreciate seeing that. It's one of the movies where I'm not necessarily afraid to say that I'm into animation, or I'm into cartoons. I feel like a lot of times when I tell people that I'm into cartoons, they immediately judge me. I love things like Steven Universe and things like Gravity Falls, and I've watched a little bit of Star vs. the Forces of Evil, but I feel like it still carries a lot of stigma. Maybe I am just a kid at heart, but cartoons are a lot more enjoyable than live action. That being said, I can't really watch things that are too hard-hitting. The more traumatic thing I saw, not necessarily traumatic, but things that are more triggering, was BoJack Horseman, and I can't go back to the same place that I was watching that before. Seeing things in real life that are triggering just is too much for me. Seeing an animation isn't that bad. I also like to look at spoilers a lot, just so I know what I'm getting into. I just realized I sound like I'm scripting this, but I'm not at all. This is just how I naturally talk. I guess it's kind of like masking or scripting, because I'm autistic and it's just how I talk. But back to the drawing. As you can tell, it's taking me a long time to get all these little grass bits in. I could have used a bigger marker or a bigger pen, but honestly, I just love using a 0.1 so much. Here I'm just darkening up all the bits because I know my pieces can look very tonal, like everything just one thing of gray, just gray, even though I'm using black markers. Here's where I'm struggling a little bit. I'm good with abstract things, but with concrete things like a kodama, it looks a little too cartoonish for my style. You'll see me really struggle with the mask in a little bit here for a second. But yeah, this is for a piece I plan on selling at conventions. I think I mentioned this before, but I really want to be able to make a living selling my art. I think a good step doing that is doing that at conventions. And of course, I plan to just break even at my first convention next summer. But I don't know. I just really want to see what I can do with my art, since I don't really have that many followers. Not that that's a problem, but I want to turn my art into a business, so I just want to see what I can do. Here, I'm getting a little too ham on the details. I try and just add more details and think, hey, it's gonna work out, but it doesn't. I kind of like what I did with the ears right there, but I should have honestly just did the ears and that was it. So yeah, later on I'm going to cover it up with a piece of paper, which you'll see in a little bit, just because I don't have any white ink. The white ink that I had is very tacky, and just, it ruins the pens that I worked on, like when I'll work on top of it. Like I literally had to throw away one of my pens because it just did not look good. It just tore up the paper. It was ugh. Someone on my Instagram told me that Winsor & Newton has really good white ink, so I plan on getting that, but I don't really have money for it, even though it's like $9. I just don't have cash on me, or I don't have the resources just right now to go get it. So yeah, as you can tell, that was a mistake. I'm just gonna go in and pencil it in. I'm using the pencil or the graphite that you can see is from it's called an animation pencil. It's not supposed to show up in Photoshop or when you get rid of the cyan or the blues, but it does show up. But I can fix that by just getting rid of the brightness and messing around with the levels. So the concept of the piece came about because I wanted to do a Ghibli art. And I recently saw this movie with my boyfriend. And I was going to originally do Mononoke with the deer, like her leading the deer into the water. But I'm not that good with human anatomy, and you couldn't really tell that it was Mononoke and the deer just because of the way I was drawing it. So I decided to go with a more simple piece. I mean, I think it still ended up good, but you know, I should branch out and try to do more things that challenge me more. I recently took a class on perspective. It was called Illustration Environments, and it helped me out a lot. I've been doing a lot of one-point perspective, which, you know, not complicated. But for someone who did no perspective for years, I think it's a big improvement for myself personally. Yeah, that eraser doesn't really work that well. I should probably try out 2 and 3-point perspective. I cannot do worm's eye view for the life of me. Like, it just does not look good. So yeah, I'm just correcting this. I think I keep it pretty plain. And as I'm working on this, I realize I shouldn't have done I shouldn't have drawn the mask first. I should have just done the grass. But I'll edit that out in Photoshop and it'll look better. I also plan on coloring it in Photoshop because I cannot draw traditionally. I cannot. I mean, I cannot color traditionally, I should say. It's just a big mess. I've really been experimenting with how I draw tree trunks and like trees because I feel like I don't necessarily know how to get the texture correctly. Like some tree bark is just winding and twisting, whereas mine just seems like a flat sheet of paper. I mean, all my drawings have a more flat presence just because it's very line based. But I don't know, I want to see how I can get the tree to sway and turn and twist. But yeah, just like the grass, this part takes a little bit of time. Looking back on this piece, I wish I kind of added another kodama somewhere, maybe on the other side of the mask. But I don't know. I think it turned out okay for what it is. My first Ghibli movie that I saw was Totoro. And watching it back now, I literally cry because it just means so much to me. Because it was my first Ghibli movie and it reminds me so much of my childhood, just playing with my sister. I didn't really have the best childhood. My parents didn't realize that I was autistic, and didn't realize that some of the actions I would take were because I was overwhelmed, or because when I would throw a temper tantrum, it was me melting down or having a shutdown. And they just didn't realize that. So I would have times where I was really overstimulated, and my parents would punish me for just acting out when they didn't realize that I was, going through something. But I could always watch Disney movies or Ghibli movies and have this feeling of family, have this feeling of love. And I knew my parents loved me, but sometimes I felt like they didn't understand me. But watching these movies, I feel like I could be a part of something. And when I watch these movies now, I just cry because I remember that feeling of being a kid and realizing that I was just a child at times. So yeah. My second favorite is Cat Returns, and because my sexual interest was cats for a really long time, I love that movie. It was just, looking back on it, it's like not the best Ghibli movie, but it's so eccentric and so out there. Oh my gosh, I wanted to be Haru so badly. I'm not a furry, but I was like, I will definitely marry that cat prince. So here, I'm just about to start my abstract detailing. I probably should zoom, yeah, I zoom in here. But this is what I really love doing. I feel like it sets my art apart as mine, and it gives it a certain style to it. It's really inspired by this artist on YouTube, Lilith Frey is her name. She's Cat Creature's sister. I've just been really inspired by her abstract detailing and Takuto Yamamoto. I've been trying to make it my own by using my own shapes and using my own style, by having a lot of more concrete things instead of just all abstract. But this is just, I love doing this. It looks like it takes no time, but it takes a lot of time, because a lot of the time I'm still thinking of what I should draw, what I should put there. Like, maybe I shouldn't put two circular shapes next to each other. Maybe I should put some triangles, but those triangles don't look good. It's a lot of thought and process into it that you really wouldn't think. You think it becomes natural, but it's very... I have to think hard while I'm doing this. If you saw my last vlog, you would see that I kind of cheat with this. I have a giant drawing that I did, and I just look at that and I use those as a library of references of abstract shapes I should use. Like I said, I also look at Takuto, or is it Yamato Takuto, or it's either Takuto Yamato or Yamano Takuto. I look at his abstract shapes and Harry Clark's, and those are huge inspirations for me. I just look at their shapes and I'm like, maybe I can just steal this. I mean, it's not necessarily stealing because I'm making it my own thing, because I'm using, you know, a tree stump kodamas, the way I draw grass. A lot of art isn't necessarily about stealing, but it's involving other people's art and seeing how you can make that your own. I spent a lot of time just struggling over what my style could be, because I've seen a lot of videos like how to discover your style, and style is just something that happens over time. You can't force it. It's through a lot of exploration. I wanted something that would set myself apart from other people, but I wanted something that I could enjoy doing. For a little bit I experimented with the lineless style, but that's just not how my brain works. I need there to be lines. I'm not sure if that's just, you know, like how I make sense of the world, or just because I've used microns since, you know, I was in middle school. But I don't know, I just really like lines. That gives my art a more cartoony look. Not cartoony, but it doesn't look naturalistic at all. Which kind of sucks because I feel like I miss out on a lot of opportunities in my art. Like, I feel like I'm not necessarily the most relatable artist or the most popular artist because my art isn't, you know, anime style, or it doesn't look very much like other people's. I don't know, I guess my art is a little bit more fine arts than it is illustration. I still consider myself an illustration artist though. To me, illustration is about capturing a scene. It's about taking one moment, no matter what moment it is, and then capturing it. I mean, I don't capture like normal moments. I capture people like women floating, or people running through the middle of the woods. But it's about capturing a certain scene. I guess maybe capturing a moment is more about animation, but that's about capturing like something that's going on. My illustration is more about capturing a theme and emotion. Like for my more recent piece, it's about capturing feminine energy. And for this piece, it's more about capturing a quiet moment in the woods, where spirits live. I guess the spirits would also be my abstract shapes, but the spirit I'm talking about is a kodama. Back to talking about the original drawing, I'm kind of just wavering around, trying to fill in as many gaps as I can. At this point, I'm realizing that I'm not going to be able to cover the entire thing with abstract shapes, and I'm trying to think of any way that I could work around that. Because let me just say, using a 01 pen, trying to cover an entire page is very exhausting. I've done it before and I'll do it again, but like, I just don't necessarily have the energy for that every time. Here, some of the shapes I captured weren't very good, like the stars and with those leaf figures you saw me doing a little second ago. But that's what happens when I take different shapes and I experiment with them. Not all of them are gonna work. They're just capturing little moments. Here I'm deciding to do some just windy noodling. This was really inspired by an artist I follow. I'm just gonna put her, I'm gonna put their information right up here. I'm gonna link them in the description below. But their art is so amazing. Just, I love the movement they capture. So yeah. Here I'm just darkening up some details, making sure that I don't get that tonal look, even though in the end I do. But hopefully I can edit that and make it look more, have more blacks, have more grays, have more whites when I color it. Coloring is not my forte just because I'm not the best at coloring. I don't know why, I just suck at it. So yeah, I'm just adding the final details and this is what it looks like. So yeah, as you can tell, I had to add another piece of paper because it didn't look too good. I think I tried to add something but it didn't end up very well. But this is the final product and I'm very proud of it. So thank you for watching. I'm glad that you watched all the way through, and I hope you have a nice day. I'll catch you in my next video. Thank you so much. Goodbye.